What is going on? Welcome to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where we are training warriors, not mealy-mouthed weaklings. Today is Thursday, October 2nd, in the year of our Lord, 2025. And this is a show where we come to get equipped to stand firm, speak truth, and fight back against a culture that is trying to steal your faith, your family, and your freedom. Because this battle that we're in is spiritual. It's not political. And this fight never, ever takes a day off. So we are done pulling punches. The gloves are off, and we're getting after it. So follow us at Mission Ready Men on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X if you prefer, Truth Social, TikTok, and be sure to subscribe to our Rumble and YouTube channels. And if you want to let everyone know that you are in this fight, grab your gear at missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all of the great designs that we have over there. All right, business is done, so it is go time. All right, before we get into what I had prepared for today, such that to the extent that I did, you ever have one of those days? It has been it has been an interesting morning, to say the least. So things may be a little chaotic during the show, but we'll get through it. But I wanted to I wanted to address the attack that occurred over in the UK this morning. It happened on at a synagogue in Manchester, UK, and a Muslim attacker drove a vehicle into some pedestrians outside the synagogue and then got out and started stabbing people. Armed police got there fairly quickly from what the reports are saying. And yes, the UK does have armed police. And they shot the suspect and weren't able to verify that he had been neutralized completely, because there were some suspicious items on his person, and the bomb squad had to be called in, and they did a controlled explosion on one of those suspicious items, which obviously it was a bomb. The casualties that we know of right now, the last report I heard, there were 3 fatalities and 3 additional people seriously injured, and the attacker who was shot by the police. I don't include that person in the fatalities for our purposes here. He is the terrorist. And the UK police, they are investigating this as a terrorist incident. Their counterterrorism protocol, Operation Plato, has been activated. So they were able to contain the scene, and this is horrific, man. This is what you expect from Islam. This is what you expect from the radical Islamists who hate us and want to kill us. So security across around all synagogues in the UK has been increased, and that's it. It's sad. It really is. We don't know who the attacker was, other than the fact that he was Muslim, and they are investigating it as a terrorism case. So hopefully they can find out, if this person had accomplices, if this was part of a cell that is operating in the UK that they can now neutralize. One of the things that really, and we have a lot of other stuff to get to, but one of the things that really irritates me is that whenever something like this happens and firearms are involved, the left doesn't hesitate to jump on the confiscate all the guns bandwagon. You have idiots on X like Brooklyn Dad Defiant and Harry Sissy Girl Pants and JoJo from Jersey and all the rest of them who they never hesitate to say it's the guns. It's the gun. Well, how do they explain this? And I always point out to these people all of the vehicle attacks similar to this one that have taken place, the knife attacks similar to this one that have taken place, scissors, bombs. It's not the guns. It is the evil in men's hearts. It is the evil in men's hearts that causes them to behave in this way. It's the hate that they have in their hearts, especially the Muslims, the hate that they have for everyone who's not Muslim. It's not limited to Jewish people, although they have been the main focus of their hatred, but they hate everybody who's not Muslim. And they want to wipe everyone off the map or subjugate them to the point where they are either paying taxes to them to allow them to be alive, or just converting altogether to Islam. And we can't let that happen. It's not the guns. It's the evil in men's hearts. It's that simple. So we'll keep an eye on that. Hopefully they'll figure out whether or not there are more suspects that need to be rounded up and locked up. But I wanted to get into the Schumer shutdown. And on October 1st at 12:01 a.m., the government, or parts of it anyway, shut down. Congress, they still get their paychecks, but other people are furloughed. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and the sombrero memes and the sombrero AI videos are absolutely hilarious, and they just keep on coming, and it's not going to get old. I don't have any of them to show you right now. It's but they're all over the place, so check them out. It is absolutely hilarious. But to get into the substance of it, the left is holding America hostage. They're holding America hostage over illegal aliens. And they will try to tell you, they will try to gaslight you into thinking that they're not trying to give illegal aliens health care. They have been saying the quiet part out loud now for a while. And let's see if I can bring it home, because it's not just this one, but there have been a few people who have been saying the quiet part out loud now. It's these people, they hate America. They hate you. They hate you, and they do not want what's best for you by any stretch of the imagination. And when they try to tell you that they're not trying to get um, they're not trying to get health care passed for illegal aliens. You can show them any number of videos that prove that they're lying. They're just lying. Like this one right here.
Do Democrats want to prioritize the health care of illegal aliens over a government shutdown? Because if the government does shut down, American
Excuse
employees are going
me,
to be furloughed.
stop it right there. We're not prioritizing. What we're doing is saying simply we want to keep the government open and we want to work with the Republicans and have a bipartisan agreement.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Because if that was your goal, you would have agreed to the CR as it is, which is the funding that you have already voted for in the past. Now you just want to add on illegal healthcare for illegal aliens and funding for NPR and PBS to the tune of $1.5 trillion. Come on.
To keep this government open, and health care is at the top of our agenda.
But aren't Democrats demanding health care for illegal aliens?
Democrats are demanding health care for everybody. We want to.
Everybody. She just said it. Everybody. And that clip goes on for a little while, and she gets. Well, let's see. Let's
save lives. We want to make sure that health care is available to those who would die, but having the help of their government.
So you're good with the government shutdown, even if it means giving health care to people who aren't American citizens?
Well, that's what you're pushing on. What you're trying to do is you're standing here and you're trying to make me say that somehow we're going to.
She didn't make you say anything. You said it. You just came right out and said it.
Put non-citizens over Americans. Quit it. Stop it. This is the kind of journalism we don't need.
Oh, you mean actual journalism? The journalism that actually holds you accountable and doesn't just rubber stamp everything you say? Yeah. Of course, that's not what she needs.
You're divisive. No, you're not.
Yeah, no,
you're being divisive. No, please. You don't need to ask that question. You're just trying to get controversy here. You're not going to get it from me. We want to save health care for all people. Thank you.
There you have it. They actually want health care for everybody. That includes illegal aliens because as far as they're concerned, illegal aliens are Americans. They're trying to frame this as the Trump shutdown, but even the leftist journalists, so-called, the American Pravda, they're saying that this is on the left. This is on Schumer. And Schumer has voted in the past to keep the government open. Schumer has voted in the past. He voted for the current budget that the CR is based on. But now all of a sudden it's not enough because he's got his far left flank breathing down his neck. And the AOC has basically just come out and said she's in charge. She's running things. And it's actually hilarious because, well, not to mention the fact that she's a moron, but Chuck Schumer has allowed the left, has allowed his far left lunatic fringe to call the shots. And here is AOC demonstrating that very thing.
People I have seen who have the following theory of why Senate Democrats have not cut a deal where they give 8 votes and move along. And that is that Chuck Schumer is worried about a primary challenge from you and is worried about the politics to his left flank. And so because of that worry about a primary challenge, he's going to shut down the government. Ergo, it is AOC's fault that the government's shutting down, or that you're somehow the kind of fulcrum of this. And I want to just ask you straight up, like, are you planning to primary challenge him? Do you think that's why he's doing this?
This is so not about me in this moment. This is about people being able to insure their children. And I will say, because I saw some senators speculating about this, and I saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open, and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly. Because what I'm not going to do is tolerate 4 million uninsured Americans because Donald Trump decided one day that he wants to just make sure that kids are dying because they don't have access to insurance. That's what's not going to happen. And so if those senators think that we're having a shutdown because of me, they're free to enter my office and negotiate, because what we're not going to do is allow all of millions of people in this country to not be able to afford their insulin and their chemotherapy. So come strike a deal with me if that's what they really think is going on.
Of course. Come strike a deal with me. So she's she thinks she's the power broker. She thinks she is running things. And to a certain extent, that is probably true. That is probably true. Now, what's actually happening right now with this shutdown? Upwards of 750,000 federal workers are going to get furloughed. Essential workers are forced to show up without pay. Now, if those 750,000 people are not essential, why do they have a job in the first place? Why do they have a job? Essential workers, like I said, going to show up without pay. The CDC, NIH, HHS are facing some reductions. Trump said that because of this shutdown, some of the changes that he can make will be permanent. The left won't be able to reverse them once the shutdown is over. So good. The FAA is going to furlough 11,000 workers. 13,000 air traffic controllers are on duty, unpaid. National parks are going to be closed. The government is still functioning. The government is still functioning. They are still intrusive. A true government shutdown would be absolutely fantastic. I mean, this is good. What we're seeing right now, I'll take it. But a true government shutdown would be fantastic. That would save us a ton of money. And nobody's lives are not nobody's. Most people's lives are not going to change significantly as a result of it. Yeah, I know we got to make sure that veterans get their benefits, and they're trying to scare veterans, saying that the suicide prevention lines and whatnot are going to be closed. I just saw the VA secretary say that none of that is true. There are some outreach programs that they have to shutter right now, but the essential benefits that veterans are getting are not going anywhere under the shutdown. So all they have is lies. All they have is gaslighting. If you actually pay attention to what's going on, you'll see that they are absolutely full of it. Full of it. All they have is lies. Sombrero Jeffries. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can pull that up before we move on, because it is absolutely hilarious. I wasn't going to play it, but I think I might if I can find it. But before that, Hakeem Jeffries, Sombrero Jeffries, is he's out there trying to spin it just as much as the rest of them, and here he is trying to put the blame on Trump when they own it. He and Schumer and the rest of the leftists own this shutdown.
Our top priority is to make sure that we cancel the cuts, lower the costs, and save health care for the American people. That's 8 words. Not difficult for Donald Trump to process. Cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save health care. Our top priority is to make sure.
Cancel the cuts. What does he mean by that? The cuts that were made to the health care benefits of illegal aliens. Yeah, I know illegal aliens were never eligible to get federal benefits, but what was happening was that law wasn't being enforced. States were getting reimbursed, extending their state benefits to these illegal aliens, and then getting reimbursement from the federal government for those expenditures. But they never want to talk about that. The left never wants to acknowledge that part of it. And they talk about lowering costs, but yet they want to add an extra $1.5 trillion for nonsense like NPR and PBS. They couldn't care less about lowering costs. But they're counting on people not paying attention and just believing what they're saying. Even though whenever they're speaking, if their lips are moving, they're lying. But they're counting on the gullibility of their voter base to just believe whatever they say because they say it. The Democrats, the leftists, they cast conservatives and Republicans as attacking healthcare and attacking poor people. Meanwhile, the Republicans are rightly pointing out that the Democrats are just recklessly spending money and blocking any attempts to be fiscally responsible. Here's Speaker Johnson talking about this, and he's 100% right. I'm not a huge fan of Speaker Johnson. I think for as well as he handles some things, he handles other things very, very poorly. But here, he's right.
Thank you, Vice President Vance. I want to thank the President as well. They showed strong leadership today. They invited the 4 leaders over here because the President is operating in good faith, and he demonstrated that very well. The problem is that Chuck Schumer and Leader Jeffries refuse to acknowledge the simple facts. Let's review what the simple facts are. As the Vice President was saying, this is the common sense thing to do. This is the right thing to do. This is the simple thing to do. By way of review, the House is getting back to the way the regular appropriations process is supposed to work. 12 separate appropriations bills passed through the House Appropriations Committee, 3 off the floor. The Senate doing their work as well. All this in bipartisan fashion, by the way. They passed 3 bills in the Senate. Those bills don't match up exactly. So for the first time in years, since 2019, you have a conference committee that is being constituted between the House and the Senate. This is the way a bill becomes a law. They work out the differences. All this is happening in bipartisan fashion. The problem is we run out of clock. September 30th is the end of the fiscal year, so we need a little more time. So what we did in the Republican majority is the right, responsible, simple thing. A clean, continuing resolution, a short-term, nonpartisan continuing resolution. It's only 24 pages in length. Leader Thune has a copy if you want to see the exhibit. There's nothing partisan in here. No policy riders, none of our big party preferences, because we want to do the right thing by the American people and allow more time for negotiation. Now, there's a reason that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have come out here, stomped the feet, saying that they can't go along with this. They're trying to bring in extraneous issues. They issued a counter proposal. You should go take a look at what they requested. $1.5 trillion in new spending that is unrelated to the ongoing appropriations process. They wanted to, as you said, restore taxpayer-funded benefits. Okay, hard-working taxpayers in America. They want to take your funds and give that for benefits to illegal aliens. They want to restore that because we got rid of it. They want to prop up left-leaning media outlets. $500 million they threw in on top of that. $1.5 trillion on a 7-week stopgap funding measure.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. They just won't acknowledge simple facts. Now, what's gonna be the outcome of this? I don't know. This seems different than other shutdowns in the past. I don't know how long Schumer is going to hold out. He's pretty much cooked either way. He's pretty much cooked. He's got AOC on one side. He's got the Republicans and Donald Trump on the other. And I don't see it going very long, but I don't see a quick end to this either. I imagine it's going to go a couple of weeks until he realizes that his position is no longer tenable. It's not tenable now, but he just hasn't figured that out yet. But I think it's going to take that long for him to figure that out. But this is just another reminder. This is just another reminder that in the swamp, chaos is a feature, not a bug. This is what they live for. They thrive on this chaos. Meanwhile, people, real people, hardworking people, are paying the price. And hopefully, at the end of this, Chuck Schumer and AOC and Sombrero Jeffries and all the rest of them will pay a price at the ballot box. I had to be careful what I say, because if I just left it at pay a price, well, what they would say about that. So pay a price at the ballot box and get voted out of office is what I mean. All right. Let me. I want to pivot to. We just talked about the clowns in DC, the clowns in the House who are responsible for this ridiculous government shutdown. So I want to pivot to actual leaders. And I want to talk about Pete Hegseth's speech at Quantico to all the generals. I watched that entire speech. It was outstanding. It was one of the best speeches I've heard from anyone. It was amazing. I loved it. I wanted to join back up after watching that. He spoke for 45 minutes, and he announced, I mean, we already knew it was now the Department of War and not the Department of Defense. He threw down the gauntlet. He threw down the gauntlet. He said, stop being fat and soft. He said, no more DEI offices, climate change rituals, dudes in dresses. You know, let's I think I have that clip. Let's check this out. I got a few clips from that. This speech was amazing.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that shit.
It gets better from there. It really does. He talked about standards. He talked about gender neutral, brutally high standards, which I think is the way it should be. He talked about how unit cohesion has nothing to do with diversity. Unit cohesion strength depends on unit cohesion is what their strength is, and weak links get people killed. He talked about toxic leadership, and let's listen to him explain what toxic leadership is.
On the topic of standards, allow me a few words to talk about toxic leaders. Upholding and demanding high standards is not toxic. Enforcing high standards, not toxic leadership. Leading warfighters toward the goals of high, gender-neutral, and uncompromising standards in order to forge a cohesive, formidable, and lethal Department of War is not toxic. It is our duty, consistent with our constitutional oath. Real toxic leadership is endangering subordinates with low standards. Real toxic leadership is promoting people based on immutable characteristics or quotas instead of based on merit. Real toxic leadership is promoting destructive ideologies that are an anathema to the Constitution and the laws of nature and nature's God, as Thomas Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence.
Amen, brother. The left is going absolutely apoplectic over this speech. And he talked about standards and how the standards for combat roles have to be high and a male standard. And well, let's listen to that, because that is what we need to be striving for. Check this out.
It all starts with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the Joint Force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our Joint Force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already, but we're codifying it. And we're not talking like hot yoga and stretching. Real hard PT, either as a unit or as an individual. At every level, from the Joint Chiefs to everyone in this room to the youngest private, leaders set the standard. And so many of you do this already.
That wasn't the actual clip I was talking about, but still, nevertheless, he is 100% correct again. But I want to see if I can find the one where he talked about the male standards, because that is that is what I wanted to address, and I don't think I actually have it pulled up. Unfortunately, no, I don't have it. But anyway, he talked about having one high standard for combat roles for men and women, and he said if women can pass those standards, great. But if they can't, so be it. And like I said, that is as it should be. But what happens is the left is going apoplectic over it, because on one hand, they want women to be they want to have a lower standard for women, but yet at the same time they have been telling us for years that there's no difference between men and women. So which is it? Which is it? Mazie Hirono was in the hearing with Kash Patel, and she talked about how, or she asked him, how come women have to do the same number of pull-ups that men do? If there's no difference, why does that matter? Well, because of course reality slaps people in the face and they understand that there actually is a difference. And it just exposes the hypocrisy of the whole thing. They know it, but for some ridiculous reason, they only want to acknowledge it when it suits their needs. They suddenly rediscover biology when women can't deal with the combat standards. And even the UN, their beloved UN, admitted that men have taken over 1,000 medals from women in athletic competition. So we know that there is a difference. Everybody knows that there's a difference. And the Secretary of War is just putting that back into practice, because it never should have not been. Now, there are a few other clips I wanted to get to, but I don't think we really have the time. But as I said, I watched that entire speech, and having served in the military myself, I was fired up. That was awesome. And it was something that the men and women in the armed forces needed to hear. And I've been reading stories about people. I don't know anybody currently in the service right now, but I've been reading stories about people who have relatives, sons and daughters in the service who were just as fired up, to hear that. and they absolutely loved it. Of course, you had the political generals and whatnot who, and feminists or whatever who expressed concern. People were saying that he embarrassed himself and all this other nonsense. Come on, no. He said what should have been should have been the ethos of the military all along. It never should have been subjected to the social experiments that it has been over the past 30 years. Our adversaries around the world, China, Russia, their allies, they train their soldiers to be killers. There is no there are no drag queens in the Chinese military. There are no drag queens in the Russian Navy. No. The military's job is to kill our enemies and break their stuff. That's it. And if you're not training, if that's not your focus, then you need to go. Or you need to get you need to get an attitude adjustment. If you care more about, if you're a dude in the military who cares more about dresses and makeup or getting your hair done than doing the job of protecting this country and defeating our enemies, then it's time for you to move on. Period. End of story. The expectations that he laid out in that speech are exactly what men and women in the United States Armed Forces needed to hear and understand. And he's going to meet some resistance. I have no doubt he's going to meet some resistance. The people have already come out against it. Like I said, saying that he embarrassed himself and all this other stuff. But this is what the military should be all about. And I am so thankful that our Secretary of War is Pete Hegseth. He is doing an amazing job. And I know, like I said, he's going to meet some resistance, but at the end of the day, he is doing what needs to be done. And he's doing a great job. And so if I if I thought I could meet those physical standards, I probably would have signed up. Seriously. It was that good a speech. Anyway, all right, let's get a word in from our sponsor for today's show. And the sponsor for today's show is Patriot Mobile. So more than ever now, your vote just is not enough. You need to make sure that your resources are going to companies that fight for what you believe in. And that's why we switched to Patriot Mobile, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. And the service that they provide is outstanding. I just recently had to get a new phone and got it set up. Something happened and I lost my cellular service. Called them back. Bing, bang, boom, done. I could understand them. They could understand me. There were no language barriers. There were no prolonged phone calls. Oh, you lost your service? Well, let's see if we can get you straightened out. Boom, done. Amazing. Couldn't say that with the last provider we had. But not only do they have great customer service, but they back up their talk about values. A portion of every bill goes to pro-life, pro-family, and pro-freedom causes. So right now you can get a free month of service when you go to patriotmobile.com and use the promo code Jackson, or call 972-PATRIOT and use promo code Jackson today. Defend freedom with every call, every text, every month. Switch to patriotmobile.com today. All right, y'all. I am Big E, and you are watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch my good friend Sackhead Sean on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. His show last night was great. The Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific. And I am given to understand that he will be back on Monday. So it's great to have him back. Be sure to tune in and check him out Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. And BZ with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Be sure to like all of those shows, subscribe so you never miss an episode. Check all those guys out and like and share them with everyone that you know, so that we can have a huge breakthrough this year. When I looked earlier, we were at 632 subscribers. So thank you all very much for that. Continue, keep sharing, keep letting everyone know what we're doing. And like I said, we want to have a huge breakthrough and reach as many people as we possibly can. All right, now let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming. We have been seeing an epidemic of violence lately. And the epidemic is coming from, for the most part, a specific or a couple of specific demographics. And I want to talk today about Logan Federico, who was shot in her sleep, or at least she was woken up from her sleep before she was killed by a scumbag by the name of Alexander Dickey, who was a career criminal. How many more times does this have to happen before somebody realizes, before somebody in a position of power and influence and able to actually do something about this admits that we are being governed by incompetent people who hate us? This is absolutely insane and heartbreaking. And I want to play this because this was some powerful stuff right here. Take a look at this.
Laying down, going to sleep, feeling somebody come in the room and wake them and drag her out of bed, naked, forced on her knees with her hands over her head, begging for her life. She was 5'3". She weighed 115 pounds. Bang! Dead. Gone. Why? Because Alexander Devontae Dickey, who was arrested 39 times, 25 felonies, was on the street. You will be sick and tired of my face and my voice until this gets fixed. I will fight until my last breath for my daughter. Stop protecting the people that keep taking them from us. Please. You have the power. We put you in the power to do what you have to do. We're asking you, we're begging you all to stop this.
Wow. This happened earlier this year in May. Alexander Dickey stole a gun and then executed Logan Federico 39 times. What was he doing on the street? I mean, it boggles the mind. I'm truly mystified as to why this was allowed to happen. And it turns out a lot of the charges basically just disappeared, gone, because a fingerprint system didn't update. So he was just allowed back on the street. And every time he was before a judge, they treated him as a first-time offender. Seriously? 39 times? So what, was the 40th time going to be when they finally did something? Well, now it's too late. Now it's too late for Logan Federico. His testimony was amazing. He talked about how the system failed his daughter, and it's failing all of us, really. It's failing all of us because this should not be allowed to happen. The incompetence with which our justice system is run is evidenced by the extremely high body count that is allowed to just pile up because reasons. I mean, think about it. We had Irina Zarutska, who got a lot of attention, and we're just now hearing about Logan Federico, unfortunately. That should have gotten as much attention. Laken Riley, killed by an illegal immigrant. Breonna Zamora in Texas, murdered by her ex-husband or ex-boyfriend with prior convictions, yet he was allowed to roam free. Repeat offenders, whether they're homegrown or illegal aliens, treated with kid gloves, treated like first-time offenders, and then someone ends up dead. Almost 64% of violent offenders are rearrested. They shouldn't have an opportunity to be rearrested because they should be in jail. They're violent offenders. I mean, this is not rocket science. Lock these people up. If they're violent offenders, they do not belong in polite society. %64% of violent offenders are rearrested, and the median time to rearrest those people is 16 months. I am actually surprised it takes that long, honestly. And that doesn't mean that it takes 16 months for them to reoffend. It just means it took them that long to get caught. Because with the defund the police movement, there's fewer police out there to actually effect these arrests. Why and why is this happening? Well, they have compassion for the criminals, but not for the victims. They have this ridiculous notion about restorative justice, alternatives to incarceration, bail reform, all of which are just code words for allowing these criminals back on the streets to terrorize more victims, to kill more people. The American citizens become a beta test bed for failed experiments. It's ridiculous, and somebody should be held accountable for it. The judges who let these people out, the legislators who craft these bills, the governors who sign them, all of them. They're all responsible. The blood is on all of their hands. Logan, Irina, Brianna, Lakin. Their lives were snuffed out because the people in power decided that criminals deserved a second shot more than they did. Now, the scripture is clear on this. Romans 13:4 says that government is God's servant for your good, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. Our government is woefully inadequate on that score. 1 Peter 2:14 calls rulers sent to punish those who do wrong and praise those who do right. I think we can look around and see that the opposite, this government is doing the opposite of that. And I know President Trump and his current administration are trying to turn that around, but we still have states and local governments and municipalities that are doing the exact opposite. These people are not just failing miserably at their jobs; they're rebelling against God's their God-given duty and responsibility to protect their citizens. If criminals are their priority, they should at least be honest about it and put it on the literature. Come to America where second chances are infinite if you're a predator. And if you're not, welcome to the Hunger Games. All right, I got a few more things I want to get into. The left is, what is wrong with these people? What is wrong with these people? Well, actually, I think we just said what it is. They're rebelling against God. We had the ADL this past week, or at least it came to light this past week. I'm not sure exactly when it happened, but the Anti-Defamation League named Turning Point USA in their glossary of extremism. Turning Point USA, an extremist organization. It gets worse. It absolutely gets worse. Because it's not just Turning Point USA. That's bad enough. But check this out. This is their glossary of extremism, and this is Turning Point USA's entry. extremism, hate, or terrorism. Terrorism from Turning Point USA, really? Wow. But it's not just Turning Point. Christian identity, extremism, hate, or terrorism. Christian identity is a religious ideology popular in extreme right-wing circles. Wow. Wow. These people are utterly ridiculous. Now, it turns out that doing that caused them a lot of backlash. And they eventually scrapped the glossary of extremism. And here's the juxtaposition that we need to look at. Antifa, according to the ADL, a decentralized leaderless movement, blah, blah, blah. While some Antifa adherents have engaged in violence or vandalism at rallies and events, this is not the norm. What? Wow, okay. But then we look at Turning Point USA. The organization's stated mission is to identify, educate, and train organized students to promote the principles of freedom, free markets, and limited government. From 2016 to 2019, TPUSA was connected to many controversial incidents, including problematic comments by TPUSA. So, I mean, this definition doesn't even come close to being anything extreme. Yet, Antifa engaged in violence and vandalism at rallies and events. Seriously? You're going to equate TPUSA and Antifa? Okay. So they ended up having to shut that down. It's genuinely amazing that somebody, and I say this all the time, somebody in a meeting somewhere said this out loud and nobody objected. What the problem is with these people at ADL and other leftist groups like this, you can say stuff out loud all you want and they're going to agree with it because they're that twisted. It's insane. So the backlash that they got from libs of TikTok, Elon Musk, and others on X and other social media caused them to scrap the whole glossary altogether, which is a step in the right direction, I suppose. But the fact is that the ideology that prompted it is still there. And there are other explainers and things like that on the site that are still there, that still have this information. It's between the ADL, the SPLC, and all the rest of these left-wing groups. All they have is this ideology and using these labels as weapons. And the problem is, for them, is that we don't care anymore. We don't care anymore. They have been calling us Nazis, racists, all the ists, and all the phobes for so long. It means absolutely nothing anymore. It really doesn't. I mean, the fact that they took down that glossary is great and all, but It wouldn't have bothered me one bit if they left it up. So what? It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. When you call everything extremist, when you call everything racist, when you call everything phobic, then nothing is any of those things anymore. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at. They wanted to be the gatekeepers of who is extreme and who's not. But they lost the keys and they lost the plot. Instead of defining extremism, they've proven what extremism actually is. And that's disagreeing with the approved narrative, either from whether that's from the ADL or the American Pravda, whoever. If you disagree, you're the extremist as far as they're concerned. And as I said, we don't care anymore. All right. We're coming down the home stretch. So we got a couple of quick hits I want to get into. The first one I want to talk about before we get into some more ridiculous stuff. The University of Delaware, speaking of, since we were talking about Turning Point, the University of Delaware, they have a student-run network called STN 49, which airs a comedy show. And at the end of a recent show, the end credits rolled. And let's take a look at what they actually had in their credits. It is sick. This is their end credits. Special thanks to Cocaine, Amnesty Week, Pollution, Charlie Kirk's Killer. What do you even say to that? How do you even respond to that? This is supposed to be humor. Nothing says comedy like applauding a murder. Wow. I don't know. I don't know what happened as a result of this. I don't know if any of these people were expelled or what. But my goodness, what kind of evil and depravity is that? I don't get it. I do not have the capacity to understand how something like that, how someone could even form in their minds to do something like that. It's sick. That's not comedy, but they just exposed the cultural rot, the spiritual rot that seems to be running rampant at the University of Delaware, and all over the country in these institutions of higher learning. Sick and twisted. All right. Something a little less ridiculous, but still ridiculous nonetheless, is another Muslim, although this guy is, from what I understand, was born in the United States, so he is an American Muslim. Not that that really means much to me in the grand scheme of things, and that's another story we can talk about at another time. But this is Abdul El-Sayed, who is running for, I believe, Senate in the state of Michigan. That should tell you something right there. I wonder if he lives in Dearborn. Anyway, this is Abdul El-Sayed talking about the Second Amendment, and this was after this was on the heels of the shooting in Michigan at the LDS Church.
Thank you so much for being with us. Let's talk about the tragedy coming out of your state yesterday. It's one more place where a house of worship is attacked. We've, of course, seen it with synagogues across the country. We've seen vandalism and shootings at mosques across the country, including a member killed in New Jersey last year. We've seen it in Christian houses of worship. We saw it yesterday at a Mormon church. Talk about that, your concerns, and what in the world can we do to stem this tide of gun violence?
Well, first of all, my heart goes out to the families affected in the Mormon community in Grand Blanc and across the country. I was in Grand Blanc just 3 days ago, and this is a peaceable community. To see it torn apart like that is awful. I'm also a physician and epidemiologist, and I know that when you have the scourge of a thing that harms people, you have a responsibility to start asking, how do you actually solve that? And you look at all of the string of violence that we've seen, they tend to have something in common. And I think we have a responsibility as a country to stand together, to stand up for our children, for our elders, for folks just going to church on a Sunday, to say that enough is enough. We need to have a conversation about gun violence, right?
And you know, when they say we need to have a conversation, what that means is you need to just go ahead and capitulate to what we want. That's what he means. But let's continue.
The Second Amendment doesn't mean any gun for anyone, anywhere, anytime.
That's exactly what it means. That is exactly what it means. And I don't know what this guy's education is. I don't know. That's exactly what it means. Back in the day, you used to be able to own a cannon. The Second Amendment means exactly what it says. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
It means that we understand that there was a space for this, but not this, not that people...
The space for it is everywhere.
Walk into their church on a Sunday and get gunned down. And so we need to have that conversation. We need to have it urgently. I'm hoping to sit down with folks, everyone, including gun owners, to folks who are victims of gun violence, to ask where is the way forward? Because this here ain't it.
Yeah, it ain't it. You ain't it. And your ridiculous notions of the Second Amendment ain't it. Yes, it absolutely does mean any gun for anyone, anywhere, at any time. But of course, he's a Democrat. He's a Muslim. He doesn't appreciate the idea of people he disagrees with being armed. Yeah, I said it. And I meant it. All right. One last thing I want to get into before we get you out of here. And that is Joyless Reid. Yeah, we thought we were done with her, but turns out not so much. She is because she hasn't been on the air regularly for a while, even though she has her podcast that nobody watches. I should talk, right? Anyway, there was a time when it was hands down, she was the dumbest person on TV, said the dumbest things. And then because she's been off the air for a while, she hasn't been on MSDNC. I thought, well, Abby Phillip has clearly taken that mantle. And because we haven't seen the evidence of Joy Reid's idiocy for a while, I thought, well, Abby Phillip is easily dumber than Joy Reid. She's got to be, right? Not so fast, my friend. Not so fast. Listen to this. This
is that if you go back before the 20th century, there were no income taxes, there were no regulations on business. You could earn as much money as you want, leave 100% of it to your children with no taxes. Right. That's the world they want back. And to get it back, they need society to change. They need people to be less modern. They need people to want fewer things. Is that if you go back before the 20th century,
what was wrong with any of that? Aside from the fact, obviously, that she thinks that's wrong, but who doesn't want to earn as much money as they can? Who doesn't want to pay less taxes? And who doesn't want to leave as much as they possibly can to their children without the government stealing it from them when they die? The inheritance tax is one of the most evil things I can think of. People lose people lose farms, people lose businesses because the taxes are so ridiculous when the parents die, that the only way to satisfy the bill is to sell the business or sell the farm or sell whatever the assets are. It's insane. And yeah, we want to return to that. Absolutely. Of course, that wasn't her point, because I didn't watch the whole interview. That was just like I said, a 20-second clip. But she's on this whole slavery thing where she thinks that conservatives want to bring back slavery and have Black people working in their homes and in their fields and whatnot. She's not only is she stupid, but she's insane. She's insane. Because the idea of working hard, leaving a legacy to your family, that's a nightmare to you, when that is the American dream. And make no mistake, she's a millionaire who is going to have a lot of money to leave to her children. I didn't realize she had children. I saw another clip of this where she talked about her kids. I didn't realize she had kids. Kind of surprised, actually, but that's a different story. Liberty over bureaucracy. What is wrong with that? Well, of course, nothing's wrong with it, but what is wrong in her brain that makes her think that that is somehow a bad thing? Well, one of the things that's wrong with her brain is that she's in this race cult where everything is about race. Every perceived slight, injustice, whatever the case may be, is based on race. And I mean, that's just that's something she's going to have to work out with God, because that's the only way she's going to break out of that. Because Nothing could be further from the truth. I guarantee you, she has never once been attacked because of her race. She's been attacked because she's a moron. She's been attacked because she's stupid. But that has nothing to do with her race. She's been attacked for her ridiculous hairdos and wigs. But again, has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with the choices that she made. And the fact that she's clearly mentally deficient in some areas. I don't know. These people, man. You got to laugh at this, because otherwise you'll drive yourself crazy trying to figure it out. These people are just morons. And they need prayer. That's the only thing that's going to help them at this point. But anyway, folks, that's all I got for you this time. I will keep trying to make each episode better. I know that today was a little chaotic, but we'll try to figure it out for next time. If anything that I said hit home for you, please take a second to like and subscribe and share this episode with everyone that you know. I don't want to just opine. I want to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope for future generations. And if you want some cool gear, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all the great designs we have over there about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And as always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.